Hello and welcome again. This is Lita Downs from the Office of Teaching and Learning Excellence, and I am pleased to be moderating your session today, Writing Care, Managing Stress Through Expressive Writing. Today's presenter is Dr. Brenda Hudson. She is a senior core faculty member with the OASIS, which stands for the Office of Academic Support and Instructional Services. Today's session is part of the Fall 2022 National Faculty Meeting Breakout Series sessions. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Hudson. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and thanks everyone who's here. I'm excited to present about using expressive writing to take good care of ourselves. So what I want to do today is give you an introduction into writing as self-care. And then I'm going to move over into what expressive writing is and what kind of benefits it can give. We'll give some tips on how to incorporate expressive writing, and then you're going to practice. So I hope you're ready to do some quick writes here. I'm going to guide you in an exercise. So it doesn't matter if you use pen and paper or if you want to use your computer, but just know that about halfway through, we'll be doing some guided exercise. And then we'll end with some ideas for your continued self-care. And there's additional resources as part of this. And of course, your questions at the end. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. So with that, I want to get started talking about writing as self-care. And just to say that, you know, I love writing myself, and I feel like it's pretty powerful. And today we're just going to talk about how some simple writing can help you, and for those who work with students, even your students, like manage multiple responsibilities. I know we all have a lot going on with our lives, so how might we use writing to help with that? And then to balance our work life out. We can look at how writing can do that, and importantly, de-stress as well. So we'll be touching on these kind of hopeful potential benefits from using expressive writing. And then just to say that, of course, this would not replace any kind of therapeutic treatment. If you're feeling like things are really overwhelming, be sure and seek help for that. So what is expressive writing? I have some points here about what it is and what it isn't. So it's personal and emotional writing. So you probably know it as journaling. It's writing about your own life, what's happening and how you're feeling about it. It's informal, so it's definitely not your kind of scholarly writing that maybe you are doing as part of Walden or your students. It's definitely more informal than that. And then unlike other maybe more creative writing genres, it's not concerned with plot, or it's not even really bothered with typical writing conventions like your grammar, spelling, sentence structure. It's looser than that. And with that comes some really great freedom that we'll talk about. And then importantly, usually it's only for the writer's own eyes. So that also gives some freedom because you're not worried about how it will land with anyone else. It's really just for yourself. All right, and I want to talk about some benefits. And I'll just start with the seminal study on expressive writing for health benefits. And that was by Dr. James Pennebaker and his colleague Beal. And he is a leading researcher in expressive writing. And this study in 1986 it was a typical kind of undergraduate study. There were about 50 healthy undergraduates, and they were assigned to write either about a traumatic experience or a superficial topic. And they were asked to write 4 days in a row, but just for 15 minutes a day. And those who were in the experimental group, they were encouraged to write about their deepest thoughts and feelings about a traumatic experience in their life. So not only what happened, but how they felt and their emotions. So what happened was 6 weeks after the writing sessions, just 4 days in a row for 15 minutes each, the students in the trauma group reported more positive moods, fewer illnesses than the control group, who only wrote about just superficial everyday experiences. And so these were self-reported results, but also they tracked the number of doctor visits that the students took. I think it was 6 weeks and then 6 months also after. And these were preliminary results, a small sample size, of course, and the undergraduate populations. But this model of writing for 4 days with just 15 minutes at a time, encouraging to write whatever you are thinking or feeling, that model has been used many times since this in different populations, and also tracking for different benefits. And I've included some relevant research that has that this seminal study has spurred in our in the handout, and also at the end I have a references list. But some of the areas, for instance, they've looked at teacher burnout, specific chronic disease symptoms and situations, and grief, just to name a few. So it just seems that writing can have some health benefits. But what seems to be important to bear in mind is how you come to the page or the screen to write. When people think about journaling, maybe you think about, just this blank page and you're writing whatever comes to mind for however long. And that can be helpful. That's free writing. And that can be helpful for some things in some situations. But also, especially when you're looking at maybe dealing with writing to help you through some challenging times or situations, the blank page and the lack of a prompt or focus, and writing without any time constraints can actually be overwhelming and unhelpful. For instance, if you're writing about something that is upsetting to you, if you don't have any kind of boundaries, you might find that you're just spiraling if you just keep writing on the page without any way out. So what happened is Kathleen Adams, who is a clinical therapist, took Pennebaker's model, and she was using journal therapy in her clinical practice, and found that if she did give writing assignments to her clients, some of them actually did spiral in the way I was talking about, and she thought that more structure, pacing, and containment beyond what Pennebaker had in his very simple model was necessary for her client base. And so she created this journal ladder, and the higher you go up the ladder, and the ladder is consisting of different journaling techniques. At the bottom rungs, there's more structure, more pacing, more containment in, and then as you go up the ladder, and the top rung is free writing, where there's no constraints, really, anything goes. And so she talks about how you can go up the ladder, maybe starting lower when you're facing some more troubling issues, or if you're kind of not confident in writing, so you work your way up. And we're going to practice. Oh, and I'll just say, offering varying degrees of structure. So structure is built into her model in these different journaling therapies, techniques, different journaling techniques. Each of them have their own instructions. So that gives some structure. And then the pacing is, whether you're kind of really diving deep into your topic or kind of skimming the surface. And then the containment is looking at like how long are you writing for, or how many, are you just writing a couple words, or are you into sentences and paragraphs and pages? So that's how her journal ladder is structured. And so next we're going to cover some tips on how to use these concepts of structure, pacing, and containment. And then I'm going to have you practice using this journal ladder construct. So some tips for writing. I like to think of that we're athletes, so we're going to write like a sprinter, or you could think of it as like doing warm-ups. So a way to start is to have a prompt. So like I was saying earlier, you're not coming to a blank page and just, that can be overwhelming because you're not sure where to start. So you're going to have a focus, and that focus can be a prompt. We'll talk about prompts in a bit. The other thing is to set a timer. So, and also I'll just say happily that less can be more. When you set a timer for maybe 5 minutes, which doesn't seem like very long, but you know that the clock is ticking for 5 minutes, your brain, it's a great hack to really get to the point. And sometimes setting a timer for less time is better than giving yourself, say, a whole hour. So we'll talk about timing in a bit too. The other tip is to keep writing. So try not to pause or edit yourself as you're writing. You're really letting yourself be free on the page, following your train of thought. Another happy bullet point here is don't worry about grammar, spelling, or sentence structure, things like that. For now, you're just being free on the page. And then at the end, this is something that I don't think is in many people's mind when they do. You may have experienced journaling. And typically what happens is, right, you come to the page, you write about whatever it is you want to write about, and then you're done and you kind of leave it. So I'm going to really encourage you to think about at the end of your writing, whether it's immediately at the end or you come back to it a bit later, is to do a reflection write. And we'll talk about that. And all that is once you've spent your time as a writer, you're going to switch gears and be a reader, and you're going to reflect. So you're going to skim quite quickly what you've written and make notes to yourself. So highlight words or phrases, what stands out. And at the end, you're just going to make a bullet point or two to yourself. What did you notice? What did you find? Are there outstanding questions for you? Do you want to pursue this anymore? So you're just processing really what you've just written in a quick, easy way. So I want to, before I go on to do a guided write with you, I'm just wondering if there were any questions or concerns before we do a hands-on part of our talk today.
I'm not seeing any hands up or questions in the chat, just some great comments. Melanie loves to sprint without leaving her chair. Love that.
Okay, great. All right, so let's get ready to do some writing. This is going to be a part one is actually in 2 parts, and it's 5 minutes total, but it's going to be 2 different prompts. And we're starting out really low on this journal ladder rung with something that's called a sentence stem. So I'm giving you the first part of a sentence, and then you're going to complete it. And then you'll also probably have time, because there's 2 prompts and each will be 2.5 minutes, which I'll be timing, taking care of the timing for you. So don't worry about that. You'll probably have time to go beyond the initial sentence that you're just filling in here. So if so, once you've filled out the sentence, can you hear me okay now? Can everyone hear me? So once you fill out the sentence, just keep going. Just keep going and write whatever comes to mind. Remember, you're going to write without stopping or editing yourself. If you're stuck for whatever reason, just kind of keep your hand moving in some way across the page or the keyboard. And then once that first 2.5 minutes is over. I'll give you a heads up when it's time to stop writing, and we'll switch gears into the second one. So, all right, with that, I'm just getting my timer going. And the first one is, right now I feel challenged by. So finish that sentence and then keep going until I call time up at 2.5 minutes. All right, and coming to a stopping point for this first part of part one. So finishing your sentence or thought, excuse me. All right, and we're going to switch gears right away and go into the second part, and it's the same principle. I'm going to give you a sentence stem, so you're going to finish writing, finish that sentence that's presented to you, and then keep going again, writing without stopping or editing if you can help yourself, and for 2.5 minutes, and I'll let you know when that time's up. So the second part here is, however, I feel supported by. So finish that sentence, keep going for 2.5 minutes. I'll let you know when the time's up. All right, and coming to a stopping point for the second prompt. All right, so you just spent 5 minutes following your train of thought, capturing your thoughts and feelings on this particular topic that I've given you. And now we're going to switch gears, as I had talked about earlier when I was saying um, typically we're used to writing, but maybe we don't take the second step, which is doing a reflection right. So we're going to also try that together here. So I want to give you 5 minutes to put your reader hat on now. Go back to the beginning, your first prompt, and just skim through both of your responses. So you're going to read what you've written, and as you're reading, if there's any words or phrases that jump out at you for whatever reason, maybe it's you find it curious that you used a particular word, or you like this turn of phrase, or there's something that you want to come back to. You're just being curious about your writing. So you're highlighting anything, words or phrases that stand out. And then also, I should also say too, if you have a question that comes to your mind as you're reading, you can jot that down as you're reading too. So highlighting and making any notes to yourself. But at the end, after you've read through both of your responses, I want you to just create a bullet point or two or a couple sentences, just anything that came up from doing this exercise. Something that you learned, maybe something that you want to pursue based on what you wrote about, or any questions to yourself. Really, these are just 3 suggestions for what you might cover in your reflection bullet point. But it's just a note to yourself of processing what just happened on the page or the screen. Is there any questions about what I'm asking you to do here, particularly the end at the bullet point? So read through both of them, making notes, highlighting, and then at the end of the second prompt, just a couple of bullet points to yourself. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this, so you don't have to read quite so quickly. But I'll keep track of time and let you know when the time is up for your reflection right. All right, and coming to a stopping point with your reflection, right? Hopefully I gave you enough time there. And I just want to open it up if anybody had anything they wanted to share about what it was like to write, for a short burst of time, using a sentence stem prompt and then writing without editing or stopping, or anything to do with the reflection right, either what that was like as a writing process or anything that came up. That would be great if you wanted to pop that in the chat or share in any other way. I just want to give that opportunity. I know I didn't highlight that up front, so, and not to put anybody on the spot. But I just find too that this reflection right can be a really helpful step in your expressive writing practice. And we'll transition shortly to how you might use these concepts in a self-care practice. Great question. Yes, I think you should be able to unmute, Melanie, if you want to unmute. And
Oh, that's great. Can you hear me?
oh, yes, thank you. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. You know, what stood out to me, Brenda, that I did not expect was in writing about my challenge, I found a little bit of overlap in writing about what helps me feel supported. I mentioned towards the end of writing about my challenge, this need to talk about it. And then what I felt supported by is talking about it, but I didn't expect them. I didn't expect to arrive there. And so when I had the reflection, the fact that I wrote about that in both short bursts,
Right.
I thought, oh, maybe I need to talk about this.
I think it's great that you came up with what would work before you were even prompted to that.
Yeah, it was a really, this is, and it's not that I didn't have the faith that this would be a powerful exercise, but I did not expect it in 2.5 minutes of writing about each of those prompts. And I really liked the sentence stem. I just found it really illuminating and powerful in just a few minutes. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and thanks for giving it a go. It is just a testament to how sometimes a really short write is all you need, because and I think too, having a short write will get us to the page or the screen more easily than thinking we have to set aside a whole hour or a half hour to write. I do encourage you to, if something is bothering you in the moment, just try whatever's rattling around in your head, turn that into a prompt, set the timer for 5 minutes and see what comes up, or even 2.5 as you did here. So that's great. And I'm glad that your mind automatically went to what might work. Thanks, Melanie. Yeah, anyone else, feel free to unmute, clicking the speaker icon. And if not, that's fine too. We'll just want to give you an opportunity. Okay, so let me move on to some ideas in continuing self-care by using expressive writing. So this is always my first tip for people who might be new to expressive writing, journaling, is to create a list of your own prompts. So whatever's going on in your life, whatever you're curious about, I don't know about you, but I go through my day and I have conversations with myself in my head, things I'm worried about, things I'm thinking about. And so I encourage you, if that's you too, just write down those things somewhere on your computer, start creating a list of prompts. And not that you have to address these prompts right away. It's really great to just have a list of things that you can ask yourself. And so we did the sentence stem. You can do it like that, or you can have just a launching off prompt, like a springboard into whatever you want to write about. It can be a word or a phrase to get you going, or a statement or a question for yourself. So consider creating your own prompts based on what's going on with you. And then again, as we've already talked about, consider writing for really short bursts of time. It tricks your mind to getting right to the point, and you're going to be less likely to transition into, I don't know, taking care of the dust bunnies on your floor, which is my go-to writing avoidance tactic. If you know you only have a short time to write. And then in that same vein, follow your train of thought. Don't stop, don't edit. And what you might find too, especially if you're using a prompt, is you're writing, you're going along just fine, addressing the prompt at hand, and then suddenly you might find that your brain takes you somewhere else completely, and you might feel like you're off topic. And I would say if that happens to you, just keep going. Don't worry about it. Your brain is probably taking you there for a reason. And often when this happens is when something really insightful or illuminating happens. So don't stop, don't edit, follow your train of thought, even if it feels like you're going off topic. And then that reflection right at the end, I really recommend that. Excuse me. Whether you do it right after you finish writing or something that you come back to, that can be, it can be really helpful as a practice. And one thing that I do, I typically write, doing my journaling and expressive writing longhand on the page. So for the reflection write, I'll typically try a different color ink just so that it's separate. And if you have a journal that you keep for, for your self-care, what happens then is if you are interested in going back over your writing with the reflection write in a different color, you can, just skim what came up without, getting too bogged down. Again, how do you cover topics that might be difficult without getting lost or overwhelmed or drawn too deeply in? By looking at just the reflections, you can cover the topics without getting too far in. And so I want to just give you a couple of minutes to not write 3 prompts, as in, I just want you to create 3 prompts that might be the start of your own list. So just depending what's going on with you, think about the things that you think about, that you worry about, that you would like to explore on the page. Give yourself either a sentence stem or just a quick statement or question. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, just so that you have something to hand when our presentation here is over. So I'll let you know when those few minutes are over, and then you'll have the start of your own self-care writing practice. All right, and hopefully you were able to capture a couple of ideas for yourself. And then I did want to just add one more thing, which I realize I haven't put on the slide, but it occurred to me that these same kind of principles that are up here on the page or on the screen can be useful even in our scholarly writing as kind of pre-writing techniques. So those of you who work with students or even for yourself, you might encourage your students if they're struggling to yeah, I don't know, get started on a homework assignment or part of your of their capstone study. Just suggest to them break something down, like, okay, I'm going to focus on just one paragraph or one part of the assignment. That is kind of like the prompt, and then have them write without worrying about writing in a scholarly tone, just getting ideas down, uh, writing without stopping or editing, and see what comes up as like a first step to get beyond that, I don't know, potential writer's block. And it just frees them up. And also have them set the timer. Okay, you're going to write for 5 minutes on this particular very focused topic. So I give you that as something that hopefully you can use for your own scholarly writing or to help your students. The same kind of principles. So with that, I think I'm going to show you that I'm at the question period. So I would love any questions or comments at this point, whether you want to submit them by chat or coming off mute. And thanks, Susan, for adding in the chat that great advice for getting words on the page, which, yes, biggest barrier to making progress, getting any words there can really help. I agree. I use it for myself all the time. I was in journalism school and I had a professor always tell us, you know, how would you describe this to your mom if you were in a bar? So talking about taking the pressure off writing scholarly, but just getting some ideas down.
That's a great suggestion. I know I see that with my students. I actually see it with my children and I've experienced it myself. So great advice there. Wonderful, Cheryl. Cheryl feels encouraged to reinvigorate her journaling practice. That's wonderful. I know myself, I love journals. I love the feel of, a leather bound journal, call me old school. But sometimes just having something that's special to you, unique to you, or maybe you just pull out a lined sheet of paper, but finding your kind of what you're going to use to capture your words is great as well.
Yes, I know I can go down a rabbit hole of paper products myself.
Brenda, I really appreciate that. I agree, Cheryl, on reinvigorating journaling, and I appreciate that this was a 10-minute exercise. It feels like, how you can care for yourself 10 minutes a day. It's really, I appreciate it. It's really helpful.
Yeah, thank you for trying it. Well, I think that's all I had. I do have some slides that have resources, and this is also in the handout. So just some studies that I pulled, but also some, as you'll see, older sources that are kind of classics in the field of expressive writing for health. I'm thinking of DeSalvo's Writing as a Way of Healing is a great book for that. And then, so getting over the effects of breaking up at the bottom there, and then some more on the second page, but these are also in the handout. There's that teacher burnout, which is from this year. I haven't even had a chance to fully review it, but I thought that was a relevant topic. And that's all I had for today. I really appreciate your participation.
Well, thank you, Brenda. It's been just a wealth of information. And as our new year is approaching, it might be a great practice to either start or get reinvigorated for to steal words from our participants. So thank you. I appreciate you presenting this. And as you see, Brenda's email is on the screen, so please don't hesitate to reach out to her. And thank you all for carving out time to attend today's session. We have several more post NFM breakout series sessions, so please keep an eye on our OTLE weekly that comes out every Tuesday. So great to see everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.